Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Kuro for this one. Amy plays One Last Job, choosing to return Memnite, an artifact creature to play with the first mode, and Ensoul artifact, an aura with enchant artifact with the last. Can she return the Ensoul artifact to play attached to Memnite? Okay, so to answer this, let's begin by observing that the last mode targets the aura or equipment, but it does not target the creature. That's important because targets are chosen when a spell is cast, so if you had to target the Memnite to get the aura onto it, this trick definitely wouldn't work because the Memnite isn't on the battlefield when you're declaring targets. Any choices not specifically listed as part of the procedure for casting a spell, however, are made during resolution. This includes what creature you're attaching the aura to. Since Memnite enters the battlefield during the resolution of One Last Job, we have to be a little careful to make sure it is a valid option. When a spell is resolving, you follow its instructions in the order that they're written. Thankfully, One Last Job was printed so that the returning an aura mode is the last one. This means that it happens after the returning a creature mode and the returning a vehicle mode, if you chose that too. Accordingly, this trick works out exactly the way Amy wants. If we were dealing with an Open the Vaults, which returns all the artifacts and enchantments at the same time, the answer would be different. When you're returning an aura from the graveyard to the battlefield, you choose what it will be attached to as part of the process of putting it onto the battlefield. In other words, you have to choose before it physically moves onto the battlefield and the aura enters attached to whatever you chose. This means that if you had an Open the Vaults with Memnite and Ensoul artifact both in your graveyard, it would not be possible to return the Ensoul artifact attached to the Memnite. The Open the Vaults returns both of them to the battlefield at the same time, but you need to attach the Ensoul artifact to something that's already on the battlefield as Ensoul artifact is entering. This is also the reason why stuff like Warp World has you put the enchantments into play in a separate step, after all the other permanents have entered. Now, I have one last job for everybody today, and that's to take a look at what would happen in the situation described in the original problem statement if Nick responded to the one last job by casting a surgical extraction to exile the Memnite out of Amy's graveyard. Well, when the time comes for One Last Job to resolve, the game will see that the target creature for the first mode is no longer legal, but the target aura for the last mode still is. Because at least one of the targets is still legal, the spell will resolve and do as much as it can. One Last Job will fail to return the Memnite to the battlefield with the first mode's instruction, but when the third mode happens, Amy will be instructed to return Ensoul artifact to the battlefield attached to a creature she controls. Note that this instruction does not indicate that it is optional, for example by using the word may, meaning that Amy must do this if it is possible, even if that means debuffing her Blightsteel Colossus down to being a 5/5. Now, it is not legal to attach Ensoul artifact to something that isn't an artifact because of its enchant ability, and Amy must attach it to a creature in order to fulfill the instruction from One Last Job. Now, you might ask what would happen if Amy does not control an artifact creature at the time when this instruction is to be performed. In that case, it will not be possible to execute the instruction to return Ensoul artifact to the battlefield attached to a creature that Amy controls, so Ensoul artifact would just stay in her graveyard. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.